hosting, if you're going to somebody's house who's hosting you,
Yeah, that's another
never
thing.
ever come empty-handed.
Right.
That really messed with me when we were dating and I was visiting you in New Jersey and
Yeah.
you were introducing me, like taking me
Yeah.
around to like
Friends'
your friends'
houses.
houses, and we would always be late. We'd always be like 30 minutes late.
Korean time.
And we'd already be 30 minutes late, and you're like, oh, we gotta stop by
Yep.
and pick something up. And I'm like, we're already like late. Like
Yeah.
that just, I was just like, we're so late. I just couldn't get over that.
Right. So for you, it's so bad that we're late. Like you gotta, it's better to be on time. But I'm like, no, we don't want to show up empty-handed. We gotta bring some.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back.
We're back. Last episode, we talked about how we met, and we touched upon at the end some of the cultural differences that we encountered in our marriage. So Dan is Korean American. So you were born in Korea.
Yep, I was born in Korea and then immigrated when I was 7
to
New Jersey.
Right. And
you were
white American.
Should we say Caucasian?
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Born and raised in Georgia in the South. So there's multiple cultures there.
There is.
Because there's Western American, Korean,
Eastern
Korean,
and then North and South, right?
New Jersey
versus Georgia. Very different
cultures there. So
how does this work?
Yeah, how does it work? What would you say, when did you first notice maybe like cultural differences between us?
Wow. Yeah, I think coming to Georgia for a visit and seeing you and your family dynamics and just meeting all your friends and all that, I could feel the difference in culture.
Like what stood out to you?
Man,
what was the difference?
Yeah, everyone was just really friendly. Everyone was just really friendly and outgoing.
Are you saying Koreans are not friendly?
Koreans can be friendly, but it depends, again, what part of Korea are you from,
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference. I'm not sure where to go with this, but yeah. How about you? When did you notice?
I think the very first memory I have after we were married.
Oh, after we were married.
Because I don't know if I just didn't think about it or like it wasn't really, I think we were just so in love. We didn't talk about like cultural differences. We weren't really aware of.
We weren't.
Like,
how about when you visited Jersey though?
I mean, I definitely experienced culture shock, but I thought it was more of like, it felt more like this is New Jersey culture shock. It didn't feel like Korean culture shock for me. I don't know.
This is both. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I think there was a few things.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Maybe this is one.
There we go.
Maybe this is one.
There we go.
We were dating. We were dating, and I visited New Jersey for the first time. And we went to a wedding, your friend's wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
And I tried to hold your hand, and you totally
Really
dissed me. You totally dissed me. I was so hurt.
Sorry.
But I think that was a Korean culture moment. That was like
at the church.
No PDA. Like,
we're at church.
Okay. So why did you do that?
I don't remember.
Why did you like push my hand away?
I don't remember this. I really don't.
I do.
I'm sorry that I did that. I really am.
I was really confused. I felt really like, what is going on here?
I just didn't want to draw attention. We're at church. They're getting married. They're friends from, church, and they're getting married at the church that I grew up in. So And for those of you that know me, you know where that is. But I don't know, maybe just felt
I think,
uncomfortable,
yeah, like
you
you
know?
can explain it as being a cultural thing, but I think years later I understood that
Okay.
it's very like not culturally appropriate to show like public displays of affection.
Yeah. You don't really see it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and again, we're at church, especially at church. Like, not a lot of people, actually, I don't know if anybody is lovey-dovey, showing affection, holding hands, hugging,
But I
it's not
saw
happening.
that growing up in church,
Yeah.
like,
But not, yeah, in
but
your
not at a
church,
Korean church.
Korean
You
church, I
did
don't
not
think
see
you'll
that.
see that. I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe when we're saying goodbye or something, or
But no couples like holding hands,
maybe in
like
youth group. I don't
arms
know.
around each other, like nothing like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Usually not.
it's there,
Okay.
but not a lot.
Not a lot. Okay.
It's mostly not, I think. And I don't know, maybe someone can help
Yeah.
me understand this, but that's just the culture I grew up in where you don't really show those things just
Publicly, yeah.
because, yeah, because you don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable around you, and so it just wasn't a
Yeah.
natural thing to see. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
make up for it. Many
there's
years
a whole
later.
lot to see.
Um, yeah,
But I didn't know. I didn't connect the dots like
yeah,
that was a Korean thing. I didn't. I just thought like you were mad at me or something, or you just personally. I think this was the thing that early on our marriage, I thought a lot of like our differences were just differences in personality.
hmm
It wasn't until um we started working at a Korean church.
right, right.
So Dan was a youth pastor at a
Mhm.
Korean church in Atlanta. And so we were there for 3 years. And
Yep.
that was my first real immersion into
Korean culture.
Korean culture. And
Yep.
then that was definitely an aha moment for me. Like I was like, oh, like
Right.
this
That's
makes
why
sense. That's why he's
you're
the one.
that way.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the first thing. I think after we got married, I always joke about this, but after we got married, like I was cooking you some good old Southern casseroles and
Yeah,
American food. And like after like a week, you were like, I need
I need
rice.
rice. Yes, I had that moment.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't know that myself.
Okay.
To be honest, I didn't know that myself. Um,
That you needed rice.
that I needed
Like
rice.
that was like you started twitching. You started like going through withdrawal.
Yes. It's true. It's true. I always thought I loved American food but it's because I had rice every day. So I'm like, oh, I wish I could have something else, But when you were cooking and making casseroles and it was good, I enjoyed it. But I'm like, I need rice.
Yeah.
I need rice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And
And then
I didn't know. I was just completely ignorant. Like I just didn't know
I didn't know either.
like
I didn't know this about
yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And another thing was I was like, yeah, this American rice cooker is not good enough. And I didn't realize I was that way. I mean, I was like, I need a
Yeah.
Korean rice cooker.
And Korean rice.
Korean rice.
Like,
Yeah, it made a difference.
you
I
have to
didn't
have
know.
the right kind of rice.
Yeah.
Right kind of rice cooker. It was just educational for me. I didn't know this stuff, but you were really patient. You weren't like
Thank you. I didn't go crazy.
you didn't.
Yeah.
So I very early on I attempted to learn how to cook Korean food.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I wanted to make you happy.
Thank you.
So thank you, internet. Thank you,
Thank
YouTube.
you.
for
Yes.
teaching me. Also, being in a Korean church,
hmm
a lot of the ajumas helped me, like gave me some insight.
Right.
Your stepmom, which is
Yeah.
amazing. She's an
Who,
amazing.
she's not even Korean.
She's not even Korean, and but your dad taught her a lot.
Yeah, my dad taught
Yeah.
her how to do it and then she perfected it.
Yeah.
So she makes it better than my dad.
So I learned a lot from her as
Oh,
well.
sorry.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Cut that out.
yeah, I learned a lot from her. So yeah, what other cultural challenges? What
Man.
was challenging for you?
Hmm.
Like in our marriage, like that actually caused like friction between us.
Friction? I mean, I don't know. Is it friction? I think one of the things that I'm thinking of right now though is that like when we talk about family, I think that
Mm,
was early on. Again, something that I
mm,
didn't realize, but when you talk about family, it's an open book.
yeah,
You know, just everything is on the table, everything is open, transparent. You can talk about anybody and just, it's okay. That's okay. It's not like gossip or talking bad. It's just sharing and
yeah, like
what's
what
happening,
so and
what's
so's
going
doing.
on.
If so and so's
Yeah.
sick
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're
Someone's sick,
yeah,
someone's struggling with something or these things, but for me, it's like it was hard to share because family is closed.
yeah,
It's you protect family and the way you protect them is to not talk about them. And even amongst family, we don't let each other know.
yeah,
That's how I grew up.
yeah,
And one example is, my uncle who was in Korea, like he was getting cancer treatment, but nobody knew it.
yeah,
Not even his own family knew it. And later on, we found out he passed away, and it was a shock to the whole family. Like, what
right,
happened? What's
right,
going on? It's so unhealthy, right? But
yeah,
the thought behind that culturally is I don't want to burden anybody. I don't want to worry
mm,
anybody. So
yeah,
I don't want to tell them because they may worry and I feel bad about it. I'll just get treatment quietly on the side and
right,
things like that. But your way of doing that is, oh, let's share, let's get support, let's
right,
receive
yeah,
prayers, meal trains and all these things to
yeah,
to have community and support and family which it's healthy, it's so much healthier to do it that way. But so just understanding that kind of culture,
yeah,
that the difference in it, so
yeah,
it's refreshing to me honestly to be able to do that, even as your mom was fighting cancer,
yeah,
we're able to pray for her and share what's going on, share
yeah,
her updates and journey along with her. And um, yeah, that was special, but my side, it's like, don't tell
yeah,
anybody,
yeah,
not even other family members,
yeah,
this isn't even outside the family, but even
yeah,
like he didn't even tell his own mom. And so when my grandmother was at the house in Jersey, you get those calls, in the middle of the night from Korea,
yeah,
and it's like, oh no, it's not a
yeah,
call just to say how you doing, but it's an emergency call, and
mhm,
it's like, what happened?
yeah,
And yeah, he
yeah,
passed away. I think that next day or second day or whatever, her and my aunt went to Korea to go to attend
yeah,
the funeral.
wow,
It was just so crazy.
that is
Yeah,
crazy.
so crazy.
Yeah, I think maybe that was a like even what you're talking about, like not being very open.
Hmm.
Like that is a huge difference between me and you, especially with strangers.
Yeah.
Or maybe even not strangers, but even like maybe acquaintances.
Hmm.
Like they're not close friends,
Hmm.
but they're acquaintances. Like we
Yeah.
know each other. And I'm just generally more
Hmm.
open and share, things, share information, but you're not. You're typically more guarded.
Yeah, definitely.
And we definitely have had, I don't know, arguments or disagreements
Yeah,
about like
what we share.
what like I remember like a few times it's like you were like, I wish you hadn't have shared that or I wish you hadn't have told them. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal, but
Yeah.
it's just this thing of like, this fear of like whatever you say can and be will use. Am I saying that right?
Can and will
Can
be
and will
used
be used
against
against
you.
you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's kind of interesting because I think, reading a lot about Korean history,
Hmm.
I totally get that now. Like before I didn't understand that, but I've read a lot of history, Korean history, and it makes sense to me. Just
Yeah.
you do have to be careful what what you show, even things that seem innocent,
Yeah.
like back in the day, like it could mean like your survival,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes sense to me now, but I think before I didn't understand. I felt like, what's the big deal,
Yeah. I mean, I think I've gotten more open since,
You have.
since then, and especially being in ministry, doing missions, and now
Yeah.
doing Father's House. It's, you meet people, but I still open up slowly,
Yeah.
and I don't like to just, volunteer
Yeah.
my stuff.
And I'm probably a
But yeah,
little bit more guarded than I was before.
we're rubbing off on each other. Yeah.
I think also experience too.
Yeah.
Um,
Backlash,
yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons, right? To
definitely.
being open and vulnerable. There's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Hmm.
think one thing about Korean culture, it's very different from American culture,
Mhm.
is that Koreans are very communal and they
Right.
are really mindful of the community and
Yeah.
really mindful of like how their actions are going to affect the greater like
Yeah.
the family or the village or the greater community
Even the
and
country
the
and the
country.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, like one instance, I don't know if you guys remember this. Probably if you're American, you probably don't even know about it. But a few years ago, there was this like big scandal of this like CEO of like Korean Air. Do you remember the
Yeah.
whole peanut scandal?
Peanut scandal. Yeah.
I can't remember what happened. Like she threw the peanuts at
I don't know.
the flight attendant. Anyway, she was like the daughter of the owner or something high up with Korean Air, and she kind of lost her cool with one of the flight attendants and like threw her peanuts at them or something. It was all over the news in South Korea. It was on the news in the US, but I remember talking to a friend of mine who's Korean, and she was like, I'm so ashamed.
Yeah.
I'm so ashamed. I'm so embarrassed. And I'm like, why are you embarrassed? Like,
Right.
why are you ashamed? She's like, oh, it's so embarrassing. It's so, and it's just that mentality of like, it, like you're Korean
Mhm.
and that it's kind of like this national identity,
Yeah.
like you identify with one another. Whereas American culture is very, very, very individualistic.
Individualistic. Yeah.
And we pride ourselves on that.
Right.
And it's kind of like, I guess that my response is very telling of like, why would that embarrass you?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you didn't have anything to do with that. Like what, and that's just a very Western way of thinking.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
so. That's an interesting point because even though I am Korean, I grew up here in America, so I'm kind of mixed in that.
Yeah.
I actually
You
share.
wouldn't feel that.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel that at all. I would be like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal, you know?
Yeah.
So there's certain things that maybe like I may
True.
identify with it as a Korean,
Yeah.
and there's certain things like that where I'm like, it's just
Yeah. That's
some
the
lady.
American side of you coming out.
Yeah, it's just some lady. She did this and whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's mixed. That's the
Mixed.
unique thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though I'm Korean, I grew up in the Korean church.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cultures that I grew up in. So yeah, I mean, as Korean American, yeah. Even though Korean is my native tongue, like I speak English better than I speak Korean. So
Yeah. I think another dynamic too that we've talked about is growing up as an immigrant
right,
in the US and how that's a whole nother culture
It is.
of
Yeah, if you're Korean and you grew up as an immigrant or you're second gen or something, maybe I don't know about second gen, but you probably check your receipts, You probably check, every single line and like, wait, let's make sure they didn't double scan. Let's make sure they didn't add any extra fees and everything's legit there,
Yep.
But you don't. Like you're just like, oh, it's good. It's good. Maybe it's a personality thing, maybe not, but I think just seeing my dad get scammed, he's gotten cheated and scammed, and at the end of the day, he's like taken advantage of.
Yes.
And he's just like, well, what am I gonna do about it? What can I do? You know, am I gonna pay lawyers to do this? Like, yeah, I don't want to waste my time. And am I gonna even win? Like, is it worth that trouble? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen him go through a lot of situations like that, and it was hard. You know,
Yeah.
you try to help as much as you can, but yeah, it was hard
Yeah.
to see
Yeah, and
growing
I
up. Yeah.
remember, I actually do remember one argument we got into over the whole receipt checking thing.
Oh,
Do you
what was the
remember?
argument? Where were we?
This is very early on, but
Okay.
I think it basically we were in the checkout line
Hmm.
and the lady
Oh, I
had
remember this.
like she
I remember
charges
this.
tax and we were making a purchase that was supposed to be tax free.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, it's only a couple dollars. But you were like, no,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be tax free. And like right then and there, I was like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Like, it's not a big deal. But no, it was a big deal.
It was. I remember the details of this actually. Yeah. We had a fire. We had an apartment fire. And hey, you can come back for another episode for that
We
story.
have a lot of stories.
But yes, we were
The Red Cross had
the Red
given
Cross.
us like a card
Yeah.
to buy like basic necessities like
Yeah.
groceries and like shampoo and soap and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
basic needs. And
And
it's
it was
supposed to be tax
tax-free.
free. And but they didn't take that tax off. So I was like, yeah, please take that off because there's only a certain amount of money on that card.
Mhm.
And so I was like,
Right.
take it off because it matters to us right now. We don't have much.
Right.
We just lost our apartment. We just got married. A
Yeah.
couple months later, we lost our apartment. And you were pregnant. We're staying in this motel thing for a couple days before we moved into back to your parents' house.
Yeah.
But it was a very
I mean, it was a stressful time.
yeah,
So
it was it's difficult. It's a
I
difficult
think
time.
that kind of added to it, but that was like surprising to me.
Mm,
And I just learned that, yeah, those things are really important to
Yeah.
you. And it's not as important to me. But I think we've talked about this, like the difference of growing up as an immigrant,
mhm.
and having to deal with being taken advantage of,
Right.
and having to deal with those things. And I didn't deal with that. I didn't grow
Yeah.
up that way. And so it's just, I don't worry about it, like I don't worry about getting scammed or
Yeah.
it's just not, it's not a thing for me. Like,
Right.
of course I don't like getting scammed or I don't like when people mess up and charge me wrong or do it on purpose or whatever. But I think for you, it's very much a sense of justice
Yeah.
because you experienced like a lot of hurt in that area.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Jersey, like at that time, there wasn't a ton of Koreans. I mean, now, yes, Koreans,
Yeah.
Indians, Chinese, like lots of different races. But at the time, yeah, there was racism that I had to go through.
Yeah.
Like going to school and ching chong, it's like I don't even know what they're saying. And it's like, are you related to Bruce Lee? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Okay, fine. Like it's just all these things that I had to deal with. And so I mean, I don't think that cashier was she wasn't purposely doing it, but it was more like ignorance. I'm like, yeah, I would like you to take that off. Go ahead, do that. I'll wait. I'll
Yeah.
do it right. And yeah, I could have let it go, but I think in that moment I didn't want to.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because growing up in school, like my fear was always getting into trouble, because even though there were bullies and even though there were kids making fun of me and things like that, I never went to the teacher and said anything, and I never got into fights, except there was a couple of situations. But the fear was like, I don't want to get in trouble because then my dad would be upset that I got in trouble. It's not even about what happened, but it's like, if you get in trouble at school, then what's going to happen?
Yeah.
We're immigrants and you need to do well in school, that's the future and all this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I remember in middle school, there was this, white kid who was bigger and he was picking on me. and I put up with her for a while, but then at one point I stood up for myself, and during one of the hallways, it was in the stairway. I still remember this. I was doing taekwondo at the time, so I was very fresh. So I kicked him, on the chest. I didn't hurt him. I just kicked him and it pushed him back.
Mm.
But the look on his face was like, what the, you kicked me, and I'm like, yeah, leave me alone. And from that day, he left me alone, and we actually became friends
Really?
because now there was respect. Yeah,
Respect.
he knew he couldn't push me around.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and so that was one instance where I think I just need to stand up for myself, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to get into a fight. I don't want to get detention. I don't want to get suspended, and it just, I didn't, so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's one little story there.
I think definitely in ministry,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
okay, this is something I really respect about Korean culture is
Mhm.
that when they are passionate about something, they're gonna do it 110%. Like
Mhm.
if they are in, they're all in. And that's really how you are, you were and you
Mhm.
are in ministry. And I actually was it kind of scared me because when we started working at the Korean church, like you were giving 110%, like you were like really pouring out your heart and soul into that ministry. And I remember we went on a mission trip and we went together, but I felt like I barely saw you because
Yeah.
you were just like, and it was a big deal. It was like our first mission trip with the youth group, and there was very few teachers helping, so there was a lot on your shoulders. But
Yeah.
I remember like being scared after that, like, am I ever gonna see you? Like, because just
Yeah.
I think like and not just you, but being at a Korean church, but also on the mission field, there was a lot of Korean missionaries that we worked with, and their like dedication to the ministry is really admirable. Like they're very, very dedicated. But I would say sometimes
It's overboard, right?
it's too much.
Yeah.
Like and I think we sometimes like there was a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
Like even at the Korean church when you
Yeah.
were youth pastoring, I remember having this very like significant conversation with you. Like, I need to know,
Yeah.
like, like your family comes first, like your
Hmm.
family comes before ministry.
Yeah.
And you committed to that, and we set apart like one day a week,
Hmm.
and that was just like
Family
family
day.
day. There was
Yeah.
no ministry on that day.
Right.
And that was really how I feel like I got through, just
Yeah.
knowing like this is our day.
Yeah.
This isn't to be shared with the church or anyone else. Like this is just for us. And that carried on to the mission field, which really helped us,
Yeah.
survive. I think it helped our marriage survive.
Yeah.
I think it helped our family survive.
Yeah.
But even still, I think we kind of clash in like how much to take on, or like the way
Yeah.
we were doing ministry. And I think sometimes there was definitely a lot of clashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think growing up, I spent a lot of time with my 전도사님s,
Yeah.
and that really made big impact on me. It
Mhm.
wasn't just the meetings at church, the Bible studies and the worships and the praising meetings and um, things like that. But it was outside of church times,
Yeah.
it was the meals, it was the discipleship, yeah, it was those things that made an impact. So I think when we were doing youth ministry for those 3 years, there was a lot of pickups and drop-offs, right?
Yeah.
A lot of parents just trusting me to with their kids and things like that. And it just these boys just wanting to bond and connect and just hang out.
Yeah.
And It was really good,
Yeah, it was fun.
basketball into late nights, going to QT and getting like Slurpees or whatever, or slushies or whatever it's called, I guess.
Yeah,
Getting yeah,
yeah,
so but that was a way to really show the kids that I cared.
yeah,
I'm not just here to preach on Sunday
yeah,
and then not be there, but I'm here,
yeah,
I'm here to, yeah, pour into them and pray for them and be there for them. And actually those were times that the kids really did open up about their life and their
yeah,
parents and what's going on with them. And there was a trust being built.
yeah,
And so that's what I learned. I learned how to be that way in the church, and
yeah.
just that's the way I knew how to do ministry. How about you? How was it growing up for you culturally, for your church life, and your ministry life? What did you see?
I mean, yeah, I didn't outside of like the church, there wasn't a whole lot of activity,
Mhm.
and it was mainly like the youth pastor was there on Sundays. He would preach or teach, and maybe we do a couple fun events, but it would be kind of like it would always usually be at church.
Yeah.
Um, but I
Mhm.
never felt like I had a youth pastor's wife who like invested in me or like
Poured into
pursued
you.
a
Yeah.
relationship. It was more like when you come to church, um, you do Bible study,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the extent of it.
Mhm.
I never went to the youth pastor's house. I don't remember that one
Mhm.
time. you know. Um, so yeah, it was different for me. My idea of even ministry was really challenged by you
Mhm.
because I think my mentality was like you just teach them the Bible,
Mhm.
and that's it. You
Mhm.
just teach them.
Mhm.
But I quickly learned that youth kids, like, they don't really care. They just, I mean, some of them care, listen, but most of them are not listening. They don't, and I was like trying to teach them the Bible, but I saw you really building relationship
Mhm.
with them, and that going so much further. And so that really taught me a lot. So um I started to do that, like really try to just be there for the girls and talk
Yeah.
to them, listen to them, as they share their stories, trying to, as much as I could. I mean, at that time I was having babies. We had Abigail and Lydia. um
Right.
but yeah, I think that definitely was different for me.
Mhm.
um and then I think on the mission field, hosting was challenging because
Yeah.
because a lot of our
Difference in
ministry
mentality. Yeah.
a lot of our ministry happened in our home.
Yeah.
um and so how we hosted was kind of sometimes.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of times it revolved around the mentality on food, right?
Mm,
It's like your idea of how much to prepare and my idea of how much to prepare. And I think this is a Western Eastern thing. It's like
very
Western, it's
much.
like I want the exact portions,
Yeah,
right? I want enough to feed everybody.
yeah,
But the Korean or Eastern mentality is like I want to have more than enough,
not even more
you
than
know.
enough, like
Okay.
more than enough.
Okay, more
I
than
think
more
this
than enough
mentality
so that we
is
can
like,
even send food home with them,
yes,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it's to that degree.
that's not
Yeah.
Western at all. Like, I did not grow up sending food home. Like, I don't remember
Yeah.
seeing that, like sending food home. Oh, another thing that, I know I'm kind of getting off track here,
Yeah.
but this kind of goes along with hosting. If you're going to somebody's house who's hosting you,
Yeah, that's another
never
thing.
ever come empty-handed.
Right.
That really messed with me when we were dating and I was visiting you in New Jersey, and
Yeah.
you were introducing me, like taking me
Yeah.
around to like
Friends'
your friends'
houses and
houses, and we would always be late. We'd always be like 30 minutes late.
Korean time.
And we'd already be 30 minutes late, and you're like, oh, we gotta stop by
Yep.
and pick something up. And I'm like, we're already like late. Like
Yeah.
that just, I was just like, we're so late. I just couldn't get over that.
Right. So for you, it's so bad that we're late. Like it's better to be on time. But I'm like, no, we don't want to show up empty-handed. We gotta bring
Right.
something. We gotta
It's
bring a
better
pie or a
to-
cake or something, you know.
That
And
messed with me big
that
time.
was
Now it's
yeah.
like, now I'm like so adjusted to that. And
Yeah.
and we also lived in Asia, so
Yeah.
you know, that's a very Asian thing, is you don't show up empty-handed.
Right.
And so hosting,
Yeah.
like, and I didn't really, even though like I'd been to a lot of your friends' house where they would just go absolutely all out, just cook this incredible feast.
Yeah.
I mean, feast.
Craziness. Yeah.
I like, my thought was like, you know, we'll feed them. You know, we'll feed whoever we host in our home, like we'll make sure they don't go home hungry, you know, and we'll do what's needed. But I just didn't have the mentality of like it had to be this amazing all out feast. So that's definitely where
yeah, and I think through that we encountered certain different mentalities, right? It's like I remember with bread, like we were doing some kind of sandwiches or bread or something, and then you asked me to go pick up some bread. I think it was like let's say, I can't remember the exact numbers, but let's say it was 5.
Yeah.
And then I came home with like 7.
Yeah.
And for you, it's like, why did you not do what I asked? I asked for 5 and you brought home 7. And for me, it's like, I just want to make sure we have extra. What does it hurt to have extra? But for you, it was more like, you don't trust my judgment. You don't trust my measurement or the amount that I need. So it was kind of like we weren't meeting, we weren't understanding each other's mentality and perspective, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember that, and I felt bad, but at the same time, I was like, but I just want to have more than enough.
Right.
You know?
And I think that too, like, so cooking is like one of the sensitivities that I have. And like there's insecurity around cooking. And so I already struggle with the fear of it not being good enough, you know, like not tasting good enough or not being like enough in terms of quantity. And so I just interpreted a lot of things like it's not good enough. And if it's not good enough, then I'm not good enough. And so that led to a lot of arguments because I felt like all I could hear was it's not enough. You're not enough. It's not enough. You're not doing enough. You're not doing it right. That's all I was hearing. But that's really not what you were communicating. It's just that you have a certain idea in your mind. This is where the Eastern brain and the Western brain, it's like you have a mindset, you have a perspective of the way things are because that's what you know, that's what you've seen, that's what you grew up with. And that was just not meeting. And so I think there were times that we just had to compromise, you know, because I know there were times where I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like I have babies, I have kids, I don't have the energy. Like we're just ordering in, you know, or we're asking people to bring stuff. We're doing a potluck style or, you know, or I just said like, we're just doing spaghetti and that's it, you know, and it was like, and it was hard for you. I think it was really hard for you.
It was.
But you did it because you loved me.
Yes.
And then there were times where I knew how important it was to you that I did the extra work and you know, and I knew that it was, especially if I knew Koreans were coming, you know, like you got to show your love through food, you know,
man, such a
like
an expression of love in the Korean culture, right? You watch any of the K-dramas, they're always eating. And it's not because they're trying to advertise food. It's because that's just how we relate. You know, we fellowship over food and coffee and meals, and it's just how it is. You know, that's where you bond. You know, that's where you connect. And so it is important. You know,
it is important. Food is really important. Like Even when like people would just stop by
Mhm.
our house to like drop off something, or like we would all like the Korean mentality or Asian mentality is like invite them in, come sit
Yeah,
down,
come in.
drink some
Yeah,
coffee, let me get you some tea, let me give you some snack.
right.
And you would always like, you gotta we would have people come over
Yeah.
and you would be like, we gotta give them some coffee. And I'm like, they said no.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I would offer them coffee. I'm like, would you like some
Oh,
coffee? Would you like a snack? Oh, no, I'm okay. And so I wouldn't get it. And you were like, no, you got to keep offering it.
just give it to them. Let it sit there and they don't even sip it, but at least we gave it to them.
And that really,
Yeah,
like, to me, I'm like, it's a waste.
it's a waste.
Like,
Yeah,
if they don't drink it, it's a waste.
right.
Like but in your mind, it's like, it doesn't matter. It's all about, like, you have to do that, especially when we lived in Asia.
Yeah, and this wasn't just a Korean mentality, right? It's an
Yeah.
Asian mentality. But
Yeah.
the thing for me is at least you gave them a cup.
Yeah, you had to offer
You
it.
offered
You
it,
had to
but you
offer it.
actually gave it as well, and
Yeah.
you insisted upon it. See, it's like showing them that you really want to give it to them.
Yeah.
Versus well, they said no, so they may feel like, oh, they didn't really want to give it to me. They weren't
Yeah.
really offering it.
Right,
They were
right.
just being courteous and offering it once.
Yeah.
But if they really wanted it, they would offer it twice or three times and
Yeah.
insist and actually just
Insist.
give it,
Yes.
just bring out the fruit, bring out the cookies, bring
Yes.
out the whatever. And then that means like, let's sit and chill out, hang
Yeah.
out. We value
Yeah.
you, you know? So it all like, but again, there's different mentalities, there's different cultures, you
Yeah.
know.
Like, I think
Yeah.
that's another, like Westerners communication is very direct. Like, if I say no, I mean no. If I say yes, I mean yes. Like, it's like, if I don't want it, I don't want it. Usually.
Yeah, but in the South, it's
There are
complicated, right?
nuances.
In the South,
There are
it's a little
nuances.
complicated.
In the South, but even in the South, like in that situation, it's like if I offered you a cup of
Yeah,
coffee,
yeah,
like I would either say yes, I want it, or no, I don't.
yeah, yeah.
And
That
that
would
would
be
be the
clear.
honest
Right.
expression. But I think in Korean culture, it's interesting because Koreans can be very brutally honest and direct about
Certain things, yeah.
but certain things they're not. Like certain things, it's like it's very indirect,
Yeah.
very like beat around the bush. And I really, especially when we lived in Asia, I really struggled with that.
Yeah.
Like we would see, like, or we would talk to like a Korean missionary, and we would both be sitting there, and then after that conversation, we both heard different things. Like as we would debrief, you were like, no, they said this. I'm like, what? No, they didn't. Like,
yeah, maybe it's like they said this.
Really
yeah, what they really meant when they said this, when they're pointing this out or that out, you know.
Yeah, and that I was like, what? I would be so confused.
Yeah. So I mean, there are certain things that, you know, Asians can be brutally honest about, right? It's like your weight. It's like they don't have any qualms about saying you're fat. You gained an extra whatever pounds and you got bigger or whatever. It's like they think it's funny, you know?
Yeah.
To the Westerner, it's like, oh my
Never.
goodness, like how could you say that, you know?
Never say that.
Like money, like how much do you make?
Yeah.
You know, how much did this cost? Like this kind of stuff is like, again, it doesn't matter, but to the Westerners, like, oh, it's kind of personal, you know?
Like we're open, like what you said before, we're open about family.
About family.
We wouldn't, like, you wouldn't even ask certain questions, right? Like
yes,
you would
depends,
you would be very careful what you share, what you ask, or what you say about family.
And again, like I think me being Korean but growing up here, it's all mixed, right? It's all the scale is all, you know, but
and we don't want to stereotype.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely
these are just some examples.
There's exceptions to the rules here, but we're sharing our experience.
Yep.
Your experience if you're Caucasian Korean couple.
What are some things for you?
Yeah.
I wonder, is there like a commenting thing
in the comments?
What are some cultural differences?
Yeah.
In your marriage, I guess.
Yeah. So there's a lot actually, as we're talking, there's like a lot coming to mind. But let me just say this, we can wrap it up.
Okay.
I know we've been talking a long time. Yeah, there have been some hard moments, I think, when those things clash.
Yeah.
I think for us overcoming that
Hmm.
was number one, being aware of what it was.
Hmm.
Because I think in the beginning, we often just chalked it up to, oh, we just have different personalities.
Yeah.
But as we experience each other's culture,
Mhm.
like when you came to my family's home and you spent a lot of time with me and my family, my context, like you're seeing me in my culture.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're getting understanding about me
Yeah.
and how I was raised and how I think about
Yeah.
things, you know. Um
And vice versa.
And
Yeah.
vice versa. Like
Right.
me going and spending time with your family, but also being a part of Korean community through Korean
Yeah.
church, working with Korean missionaries, those kind of things. It really did help.
Yeah.
And not everybody has that opportunity to see each other in their cultural contexts.
Right.
But I think that really, really helped us bring awareness to our differences.
Right. And I think the heart desires to understand each other, right?
Yeah.
And to see from the other person's perspective of
Yes.
why they process it that way or see it that way.
Yeah.
And you know, because we love each other,
Yeah.
we want to work it out. We want to see each other. And I think it's been a journey, right? It's like
It has been.
from when we first met and got married to where we are now. It's been a journey of growth.
Yeah.
And we've both changed a lot, but we've also received a lot of I think breakthrough and
Yeah,
healing,
for
inner
sure.
healing, and a lot of yeah, a lot of ministry that the Lord's done in our lives. But I think it goes down to just really valuing each other, right? You know,
Exactly.
your upbringings, your culture, my upbringings, my culture,
Yeah.
and to say like not everything about it is great, you know, like some things are great, some things are not,
Right.
and to really identify those things and name those things and say like, hey, we love that about it, but we don't love this. And some things it's like, yeah, it's just preference, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
I think coffee is another thing, right? And like when you want coffee, it's like you want to get half a cup. And I'm like, why do you want half a cup? Because my brain is like, give me a full cup, you know? But you said, give me half a cup because then it'll be hot when I drink it. And then I'll get another half so that it'll still be hot when I drink it, you know?
That may just be a me thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe that's a you thing. I don't know, but that's a difference. Okay.
It's definitely a Korean thing to fill the cup.
Right. It's like, I want to fill it up.
Honoring.
Yeah.
Like honoring thing to do.
Yeah. So that's an honor thing. But then I think understanding on the Western side, or maybe just culturally or individually, like just kind of saying, hey, how much coffee would you like?
Right.
And giving them the amount they want.
Exactly.
And not just giving them what I assume, right?
Yeah.
And like
how do you think
like it? Yeah, or what I think you should drink, you know, it's like and that's something that God's been speaking to me about. You know, it's like, you know, when we give a gift, you know, when I give a gift to God, when I worship him, when I come before him, not just give to him whatever I want to give to him, but give to him what he wants to be given.
Whoa.
Worship him the way he wants to be worshiped.
Wow.
You know, I know some people like surprises, but like I think it takes that extra effort to seek out what is it that God would really be pleased with. And for you too, like what is it that would really please you, you know? So that the gift doesn't become about the gift giver giving it, you know, like, oh, I feel good giving you a gift. At least I give you a gift. It's not about me, it's about you. Like, how can I bless you and honor you and see you, and what would make you happy, you know? And that's something that God, you know, like when we worship, it's like sometimes we're singing and doing all these things, and we're gonna do something about worship, but maybe I should have saved that, you know. Maybe I should save that for worship. We should cut that out.
All connected.
Okay.
Keep going.
But that really speaks to me because I don't want to just worship God the way that I want to give him worship, you know? So I want to worship him the way he wants to be worshiped. And there's certain moments, you know, we're singing and it's like, oh, it's so good. But there's certain moments when you stop singing and God's like, oh, here's that moment.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you interact with God. And so I love all of it. But I want to give to God what he wants. I want to follow him the way he wants to be followed, not the way I think I should follow him. you know?
Wow, that's
So,
good. And I think that's what love is,
yeah,
you know, and like when
exactly.
you love someone, you pay attention
Right,
to what they like and don't like.
right.
And really and truly, like the verse that comes to mind is love doesn't insist
Mm-hmm.
on its own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's been times we've both been very stubborn
Right,
about our own way. Like,
right.
no, this is the way
Mm-hmm.
that we're gonna do this. This is the way I want to do it. This is
Right.
or even thinking that our
Yeah,
culture, like the way our culture does
right,
it, is the right
right.
way. I think, you know, us being on the mission field, like we saw that actually. We saw a lot of division
Mm-hmm.
or dissension because of cultural mentalities about how to do things.
Right.
And there was a lot of stubbornness on both sides and kind of thinking like my way is the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much, well, it may not be right or wrong, but it's just it's different.
Different. Yeah.
It's different.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah.
You know, I think, a friend said, years ago, he said, unity isn't uniformity.
Yeah.
You know, we can have our difference and still be unified. We don't have to all dress the same and look the
Yep.
same and talk
Yeah.
the same and act the same. And so that's the the beautiful picture of what the body is,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like God didn't create everybody to look the same and act the same and all that
Right.
stuff. He created us differently, uniquely,
Yeah.
fashioned us and,
Yeah.
formed us and designed us. So
Yeah.
we all have different DNA and,
Right.
it's like, that's the beauty of it. But I think we can get stuck on, unity is uniformity.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily,
Yeah.
Let's celebrate the differences. What will heaven be
Yeah.
like? It's going to be all
Yeah.
the different people of the world,
Right.
just coming to glorify their Father,
Yeah.
glorify their Maker. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think if anything, marrying you has enriched my life.
Wow.
Really, seriously. I mean, yes, there's been challenges.
Mhm.
Yes, there's been difficulties. Um, even just in like food preferences, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
usually whenever we're thinking about where we want to go out to eat, like you always 100% want to eat Asian food.
Do.
Like that's almost always what you're craving.
Yep.
And I'm like, I kind of would like a burger. I kind of would like Chick-fil-A, you know, like
Mexican.
Mexican.
For you, it's often Mexican.
Often. It's changing
Yeah,
though.
it's changing.
But because we care about each other
Right.
and we love each other and we compromise,
Mhm.
it's like there are times when I'm like, let's go eat what you want to eat.
Yeah.
And there's times where you're like, let's go eat whatever you want to eat. And
Right.
we don't even like take turns. We just do that for each other
Right.
because we care, because we love one another. It's not something of like, let's keep it fair.
Right.
You know, like we don't even have to do that because I don't know, it's just after 17 years of marriage, I think we've just learned to really love each other in those ways. There's certain things that like one of the things that's a very Korean thing, like when you come home, you like to be acknowledged that you're home. And I kind of struggled with that in the beginning because I was like, why? What is the big deal? But I try to when you come home. I try to say like, you know, we all try to say welcome home.
Thank you.
Or you know, like as much as we can, you know, we try to do that because I know that's important to you.
Right.
You know, that's a way that you feel honored and respected and loved.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's things that you do for me that you know that I like and that. So I mean, I think love can conquer all.
Yeah.
You know, I know if you're listening to this and you're in an intercultural marriage, if you really want to honor God in your marriage and you want to love your spouse well, you will find a way. You will find a way to overcome those challenges because it really does. Like, I know it sounds cheesy, but love really does conquer all. It really does help you when you love one another with biblical love, like, you know, not being selfish, you know, being considerate, you know, making compromises, like giving in and there's been a lot of things you've done for me that you wouldn't have done growing up. Like
Mhm.
you know, some of the experiences we do traveling and
Mhm.
things that you're not as like, that's not your natural inclination,
Mhm.
but you do it for me because I did grow up that way
Mhm.
and that's important to me. And so we do that for each other.
Yeah.
But I love being married to you, and I love that our kids get the best of both worlds, Korean and American.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like we do a good job of celebrating
Mhm.
culture in our family.
Yeah,
Would you
definitely.
say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just to respond to that, yeah, you definitely enriched my life as well, you know. So yeah, I love being married to you as well. You know, you are that promised gift from the Lord, and um, I think we talked about it in the how we met, but yeah, never looked back. You know, the moment God said she's the one, you know, never looked back, um, and here we are years later. Yeah, doing a podcast, talking about stuff. This is not my comfort zone. This is not something that I enjoy doing, but Hannah wants to do this, and she's asked and she's respected my space and waited on me, and eventually I said, yeah, I'll do it, but I'll do it for you, you know. And yes, I'm trying to do it for God too, you know, but this is a little outside my comfort zone, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a lot of growth, you know. I think because
Yeah.
of the commitment we have,
Yeah.
the devotion we have towards one another, the covenant we made before God and before his people, you know, that's what we do in
Yeah.
exchanging the vows. And I mean, I even wrote a song about that, right? So
Yeah.
I sang it at our wedding. But I feel like, yeah, I I want to continually love you and honor you. And I'm so
You're gonna
thankful.
make our audience start
I'm
gagging.
Oh, sorry.
Mushy
Uh,
stuff. Okay.
all right, that's good.
That's good. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, let us know in the comments what are some of the challenges or fun things
Hmm.
that you've experienced in if you're in an intercultural marriage or if you've experienced another culture,
Hmm.
and how that's helped you be more open-minded or change your perspective or challenged you on certain things.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.